So polling since last week's Democratic debates shows Senator Kamala Harris slipping, and a Daily Beast report says that the Pete Buttigieg campaign is taking steps to prepare for a potential contested Democratic convention. Political nerds, get excited.
Team Rising is here to break it down. Andrew Feldman is a Democratic strategist, and Kelsey Bolar is a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and senior news producer for The Daily Signal. Welcome to you both.
How's it going, guys?
Good morning.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got these interesting debate numbers, particularly for Kamala Harris, Andrew. She didn't get the debate bump that she experienced last time. That's something that Nate Silver over at 538 is tracking. She actually suffered an average of 3 percentage point decline in the last 5 post-debate polls. Does this spell a problem for her?
Sure, it's a problem. I mean, absolutely. I mean, she did not look great in that debate. People were expecting a lot out of her because she had, you know, what some would call a star-studded performance against Joe Biden in round 1. Round 2, she's with Joe Biden again, and what people remember most is that she was slammed by Tulsi Gabbard, right? So yeah, she's having a little bit of a rough patch here, trying to figure out who is Kamala Harris. What is her message? She's changing every day, and now today she's up the first mainstream top-tier candidate up with an ad in Iowa. She's spending about $200,000 initially on a 60-second spot up today, and I think that's trying to define her. And she's using her mother to do that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I was showing it. Crystal and I were looking at this right before the show. It's the 3 a.m. policy. I mean, Kelsey, this reminds me of the Hillary Clinton ad 2008. It's like, when the phone rings at 3 a.m. Like,
which didn't even work
and
for
it
her
didn't
then.
work. I guess what I don't really understand is why would, like, what is it exactly that she stands for? Like, you know, like on a very basic policy level. I don't think anybody can really answer that question.
Absolutely, and look at this. My fellow panelists and I already agree. I think that's what she's not communicating in these debates. She not only didn't have a good performance, she didn't have one of those breakout moments that she had in the first debate, but she wasn't clear in what policy she really stands for. And you know, I think she is trying to carve out a place on farther on the left. Clearly much farther than any of the moderates on the Democrat side. But that's a very crowded space with candidates like Elizabeth Warren, like Bernie Sanders, who have made their policy proposals very clear and been effective in communicating where they stand to the American voters. She, on the other hand, has flip-flopped back and forth multiple times on healthcare, for example, and I think she has to figure it out, who she is.
Well, Andrew, to your point, I mean, Tulsi really got her. And she didn't have a response.
No, and
it's continued. It's continued after the fact too, where still Kamala hasn't had a response on her record as a prosecutor in the state of California. Rather, she's decided to just sort of take cheap shots at Tulsi.
It's really amazing to me. I mean, I don't really care if Tulsi is a candidate who has 1% and 2% in the polls, which was her response to Anderson Cooper following the debate night. These issues, if she gets into, you know, the spring of next year, these are going to be brought up. If you're her campaign team, you guys got to figure out an answer. What are you doing? And there is an answer that she can develop on this. It's not just like, and it just doesn't seem like she's doing it. Especially, she should have been prepared for attacks when she saw that bump and she saw how Joe Biden wasn't. Why make the same mistake, which is basically what she did? And now the question is, will this ad, like you said, it's a very Hillary 2.0 type ad, but guess what? She's using the same ad guy, Jim Margolis. So, you know, absolutely. It's the same, it's a little bit of Hillary 2.0, and that's a little bit of my worry in the overall primary. We're here, we can't run that same campaign.
That's
right, she could have seen those attacks coming and the fact that she wasn't prepared for it. That's what people said about Joe Biden. He wasn't prepared, and his response, why wasn't Kamala when
and to that point,
in particular, go ahead.
If you look at how the other candidates have fared post-debate, and nobody jumped up or fell way back, but you see Biden and Kamala both dropped. Biden dropped about 2 points, Kamala about 3 points post-debate, and Warren and Sanders are both up about 2 points post-debate, Andrew. And I think it is about, you know, a lot of this comes down to who people feel like can really take on Trump, right? Who can really go toe-to-toe with him, and also who's laying out a vision for the country that is inspirational.
I would lead with vision. I think right now that vision, because look, his numbers of who can take on Trump, Joe Biden is still really high, but the vision, no one can question why Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders is running for president.
Exactly.
And you are watching, Elizabeth Warren, to me, has run an extremely impressive race. When she was down and out on December 31st, when she entered this race, to now, it is just a rise that is fascinating to watch, and one that I am starting to feel can really energize people around her and around our nominee that we need. She has just been really impressive, and she was the star of both debates. When you look at them, the whole debate, from even when she was attacked on Medicare for All, the way she hit back on Delaney and hit back on others.
She and Sanders were a great team on Medicare for All.
But that team can't last forever.
You make a great point, though, which is that nobody can question why they run for president. I don't think anybody can really question why Trump wants to stay in office either, Kelsey. And so I guess the real question
is,
I think we have different answers on that one. But anyway, go ahead.
I think it's pretty clear. But I mean, whenever it comes to this primary, they're going to have a problem. If you're a Buttigieg, if you're a Kamala, why should somebody support you and not Joe Biden if that's the vein that they're looking for somebody?
Absolutely, and I think Americans see that there's two paths Democrats can take right now, and one of those paths is really changing the face of the party to embrace ideas that are quite radical and a huge difference from even where the Obama administration stood. We saw that in the ways the Obama administration was attacked during that debate, and then they can also go the path of the more moderate side, and it's the candidates who are really being honest with voters about where they stand in regard to both those directions that are making a name for themselves. Those who are kind of trying to straddle those positions are not doing well because voters are just not being confused and they're not seeing their vision and getting that feeling of exactly
why they're well said. Hold on, Andrew. I want to ask you about, there's new reporting from the Daily Beast. Pete Buttigieg is going the old superdelegate route and courting party insiders. He's another one where, sort of the big expectations for him have fallen off a little bit. The polling isn't where probably he wants it to be in order to win. So he's taking this approach of, let me court the Democratic insiders so that if there's a contested convention, I can be the one with the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's too early to even contemplate this. I worry that if we're starting to think about this early, we get into a point where we're going to divide each other up and cut each other down, that Trump's going to end up winning the election because we can't become unified behind our nominee. Buttigieg has every right to do this. I'm sure the other campaigns are thinking about this long-term strategy, but it's too early to even contemplate a contested convention right now. But Buttigieg does have, the insight, from his previous DNC chair run about how to do this. He was able to flip some delegates at the DNC in that race and impress some people. So I'm sure his political team is going back to his contacts there. But the reality is, I think that it's just way too early to even begin contemplating this.
Well, the main thing here is that it spells disaster because he's got a lot of money. This guy could ride it out all the way until the end. He could consistently bleed
23 billionaires
5 to
him,
6.
right?
Yeah, he's got 23 billionaire donors. He could go all the way to the end. I mean, if they're already planning this and it shows he's not going to bow out, even if he never wins 4 to 5, he could be the John Kasich of 2016. That's not a place that you want to be.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what we're looking at. I think that if he is going to be a spoiler, I don't think Pete Buttigieg and his team would hang in. But if you have someone like Bernie or someone else and a whole bunch of candidates that are going all the way, right? I haven't seen any indication that Bernie's not gonna that's gonna bow out early. I mean, so I think that you may have a bunch of these guys try to go all the way to the end and see what happens. Yeah. But we've talked about these brokered conventions, ever since there was the last brokered convention, and it never actually ends up happening. So
it's real fun to think about.
Yeah, right? I mean, to me, I see a parallel here with the fact that Buttigieg finds more support among elites than he does among actual voters, and so to me, it makes sense as a strategy that his team would say, okay, well, let's go to the elites in the party.
Yeah. I think it would risk, really harming morale among voters if it does come to this. I think there's an idea that this is like rigging the elections, and we saw, a lot of people felt that Bernie Sanders didn't get a fair shot in the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton. So I think it would be a huge mistake for Democrats or Republicans to go this way.
If it's decided by superdelegates, there will be hell to pay.
I just don't think that's gonna. I just don't think that's gonna happen, especially the reforms, regardless of what what you think about the DNC, and I have plenty of thoughts. The reforms they've made on superdelegates has been one thing that was a step in the right direction.
For the first round.
Hold
Very
those
positive.
thoughts. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a quick break, and more Rising after this.